What's up, guys? First of all, I want to thank you for your amazing response to the video I posted this week about men needing to own up to their responsibilities, not run away from their responsibilities, not shy away from their responsibilities, but to really stand up and step up to the plate. And I got to commend you guys. Your response was amazing. I did not expect it. I had prepared myself for some degree of pushback because I know how we can be sometimes, but I was amazed at a lot of the feedback I got back from you guys. Was just really a lot of appreciation, a lot of thanks, a lot of requests to share more, teach more. A lot of brothers just flat out said, man, we haven't had a lot of teaching. We haven't had a lot of fathers in our lives. We haven't had a lot of guidance, and a lot of us are out here trying to live our lives off of what we see other folks doing, and we're trying to flex like we know what we're doing when we really don't. So that kind of spoke to me and really encouraged me more than anything to do this particular video today and share something with you that I think is important as we talk about men. I want to call this the blueprint for men. And from time to time, as I get opportunity, I want to drop little pieces of nuggets that'll help you kind of get a better idea of what it means to be a man of God, to be a man of character, a man of integrity, a man of vision, a man who is not perfect, but a man who's in pursuit of something beyond mediocrity and average. One scripture that came to mind today, and I just want to focus on one scripture, and I want to focus on one concept and one thought. It's James, the first chapter, the 19th verse, just one verse. Really simple verse, but super powerful verse, especially for men. It says, "Wherefore, my beloved brethren, let every man be swift to hear, slow to speak, and slow to wrath." Now, I want to just say that one more time because there's a lot of powerful wisdom here in James 1:19. "Wherefore, my beloved brethren, let every man, let him do what? Number one, let him be swift to hear. Let him develop his listening skills. Number two, let him be slow to speak. Let him think before he releases the words out of his mouth that he might want to say to someone or might want to say about something. And then number three, let him be slow to wrath. In other words, let him be calculated. Let him be conscious of his anger, his feelings, his emotion. This is some of the best wisdom that you're going to find anywhere in the world. I want to encourage you as brothers today to understand that we have two ears and one mouth for a reason. The reason is that we're supposed to listen more than we talk. This particular session today is really all about listening. The reason why we have two ears and one mouth is because God intended for us to become master listeners. You can learn a lot about a person based on how well they listen. You can also learn a lot about a person based on how much they talk, how quickly they speak, how much they say, and if they're saying anything when their mouth is moving. And I'm not trying to say this to be funny or facetious, but I want to teach men the importance of using your ears and the importance of knowing how to be silent, how to speak with purpose, how to speak and say something, as opposed to just speaking and really not having a whole lot of value that's being released out of your mouth. I want to encourage you because I deal with a lot of brothers, of course, as a pastor, as a transformation coach, as a man myself. I deal with a lot of brothers. I've been dealing with a lot of men throughout my life. And one of the things I've discovered about some brothers, and it's obvious that they don't know it because they do it habitually, is that they talk a lot. And I'm not talking about talking a lot about things that are helpful, talking a lot and dropping knowledge, talking a lot and kicking some major wisdom or principles. I'm just saying, I know some guys, they just like to talk. The old adage is they like the sound of their voice. And I want men to understand something, that if you're a man who talks a lot, you probably want to be careful, because you can reach a place where people will tune you out because your voice is always being thrusted upon their ears. People would be shocked and amazed to find out how quiet I am behind the scene. People figure because you're a pastor, you're a teacher, you're a preacher, you're a speaker, you're talking all the time. No, if I'm not doing what I'm doing now, if I'm not at my church or if I'm not at a meeting somewhere or preaching or teaching, believe it or not, I'm a very quiet person. It's a decision I made a long time ago to make sure that when I open my mouth, something powerful, something important, something useful, something helpful comes out. See, what you've got to do is understand your voice has power, but you don't want to overuse it and you don't want to abuse it. I want to encourage men, and this is a blueprint for me, and I'm giving you some power keys to be an amazing man in this world. Consider this: say less so that when you say something, you say more. Let me say that again. Say less so that when you say something, you actually wind up saying more. See, a man who talks too much or a man who overtalks others, and I know some brothers that do this and they're bad about it. They will be in the midst of a conversation with either you, one person, or they'll be in a group of people. And it's almost like to them, it's a contest. It's a contest to see who can say the most. It's a contest who can take up the most time. It's the contest to see, who can, I guess, be the smartest and say something that makes everybody say ooh and ah. And when I'm in those circles, man, I go ultra quiet. Because one thing I know about intelligent, sharp people with wisdom and knowledge are not going to compete with you to be heard. They're simply not. So if you're a man who overtalks others, or you're a man that simply talks too much, I'll promise you this: you'll be the man that is always on the short end of powerful and important relationships. And I share this with you because I want to help you. I want to strengthen you. I want to point you in the right direction. You'll always be the man on the short end of powerful, important relationships. Now, that doesn't mean you're not going to have a lot of friends. Shucks, that don't mean you won't be popular. But I promise you, you won't have a whole lot of powerful, important relationships in your life. Why? Because people with wisdom and knowledge are never going to compete to be heard. They're not going to compete with you, even though you're the one that needs the wisdom and the knowledge. Because you don't know how to be quiet, because you don't know how to ask a capsulized question, they will simply allow you to talk, and you'll think you're talking to them, but they tuned out a long time ago. I know this to be a fact. So I want to hip you to the game. I want to help you understand that part of being a man comes with having that confidence that says, I don't have to be heard all the time. I don't have to always say something. And if I ask a question, my question doesn't take 5, 7, 10 minutes. One of the sessions or groups that I just have to prepare myself for mentally is when I'm doing a class, a group, or a session with all men. When I'm doing a class, a group, or session with all men, I have to prepare myself mentally, and I also have to remind the brothers that everybody's not here to hear you. Everybody's not here to have you ask a question that took 7 minutes. And then when we try to give you an answer, you got an addendum, you got a but to go with your question. And I don't know if it's just bros when we get together. I think we just like to talk. I don't know if it's the barbershop mentality. I don't know what it is. But when I'm doing classes and courses and groups with women, it's the exact opposite. They are listening, they are attentive, they're taking notes. They ask questions that are very short because they want to give the speaker enough time to fully elaborate and extrapolate their answer so that they can get the maximum from that particular individual. And guys, we got to do better, because I'm telling you, we miss a lot of information. We miss a lot of opportunities because we don't know how to be quiet. We don't know when to speak. We don't know that there are times where you need to give more space to the more dominant voice in the conversation, the more dominant voice in the situation. And you need to learn how to ask what I call capsulized questions. Again, I want to share with you, brothers, that men with wisdom and knowledge, women with wisdom and knowledge, they are not going to compete with you in some speaking contest. I know for a fact that when I'm in a situation like that, I go super silent. I go super silent. I just let that person go on and on and on and on. And then they may pause and say, well, what do you think? Or do you have anything to say? What's your opinion? And I'm like, I really don't have much to say about it. And the reason is because you have presented yourself as someone who is more interested in talking than you are listening. Listeners are learners. Listeners are learners. And you must master the art and have an appreciation for listening more than you have an appreciation for hearing the sound of your own voice, especially if you're the one that's seeking wisdom, knowledge, insight, and understanding and direction. Then you must understand your position. You must understand your role is that of the recipient. But you can't be the recipient if you are full. You can't be the recipient if there's no space to pour into. There's not enough time to really give back to you because you are consuming time with chatter. Chatter has to be controlled, especially in the mind and the hearts of men who are seeking to really present themselves in a way that says, I'm here to learn, I'm here to grow, I want to be a student. You can imagine when the disciples were with Jesus Christ, they did a lot of listening. They did a lot of listening. Why? Because Jesus was the one that was pouring into them. What sense would it have made for them to out-talk Jesus? What sense would it have made for them to ask Jesus a question, and when he gets ready to answer it, they talk over him while he's answering the question? A lot of us need to learn this, and a lot of us haven't been taught this, that there are rules of engagement when it comes to communication. Let me say that again. There were rules of engagement when it comes to conversation. What's the rule of engagement? 2, always listen more than you speak. And not just a regular listener. I challenge my men and I challenge my audiences all to be studious listeners. Why? Because being a studious listener will take you a lot further than being a overly talkative chatterbox. Now, I want to say that again because that's powerful and important. Being a studious listener will always take you a whole lot further than being an overly talkative chatterbox. So I want you to practice that. Keep that in your mind. This is a blueprint for men. I promise you, one that'll help you position yourself to be a lot more successful. And you'll find people pouring into you a lot more, sharing more, because you have identified yourself as a studious listener. In my closing, I want to encourage you to master the ability to ask questions in the shortest form possible. And then remain silent as you listen to the answer. Master that ability. You'll find people giving you more. You'll find people telling you more. You'll find people sharing more because you give them an opportunity to fully pour into you without interruption and without them feeling like it's a competition for a conversation. Now, the last piece of this blueprint is for you when you're in a conversation with either one person or you're in the conversation like in a group setting. I want you to keep this in mind, that if you hear your voice more than anybody else's, or you hear your voice more than everybody else's, it usually means, brothers, that you're talking too much. That's usually what it means, especially if you're not the dominant voice in the conversation between you and another person, and especially if you're not the teacher or the presenter in a group situation. Then you need to recognize, okay, I'm hearing my voice. I'm talking more than the teacher. I'm talking more than the presenter. I'm talking more than the person that I'm asking information from. You got to listen to yourself sometimes. And I know sometimes we get eager, we get excited. Sometimes we get in these environments, man, where we feel free and we just want to talk. And there's a space and a time and a place for that, I'm sure. But you must also recognize that when you're in a situation where you're trying to learn something or glean something, you do not want to be the chatterbox, because chatterboxes get tuned out and chatterboxes get a whole lot less than those who are studious listeners. And I just wanted to share this today, and I'll come back and do these from time to time as I have opportunity, just to share with my brothers, my men, the blueprint for being men. I understand a lot of you don't have fathers, didn't have fathers growing up. I understand a lot of you didn't have male figures growing up. Some of you don't have male figures right now in your life, and You're learning how to be a man from the hood, from the street, from other brothers who don't know what they're doing, and you're emulating them, or you're emulating some icon or some star or some famous person on television or radio or whatever. And I need you to understand something, that there's reality, okay? And then there is the world. And sometimes we try to make the world our reality when the two will never ever be the same or coexist. So I hope this helps you. Let me know, like you did on the other video, if this was helpful to you, if you learned something. If you can use it, use it. If you can't, hey, I tell people all the time, man, chew the meat, swallow the meat, spit out the bone. Do that with everything that I share with you, and I got a feeling that you're going to find yourself being a more confident man, being a more successful man, being a man who is more approachable, being a man who is more teachable. And that's my whole goal and my whole aim as I work with men from all walks of life, to really empower men to be the best man that they can possibly be. Well, hey, this is Pastor Troy Wynn, Senior Pastor from the Freedom Church in Warner Robins, Georgia. Address 820 North Houston Road, Warner Robins, Georgia. And if you don't have a church home, I want to encourage you to join us next Sunday, 11 a.m. Join us, pop in, check us out, see if we're the kind of church that you can vibe with, see if we're the kind of church that can help you grow. Give it a shot. You got nothing to lose. If you don't like it, if it's not a good fit for you, hey, you're under no obligation to come back. But you owe it to yourself to at least check it out one time. Who knows? You may find something you've been looking for your whole life. You just didn't know what it was. You guys have a blessed day.